Well, the Wall Street gained for the third session in a row. The Sensex and the Nifty ending mildly higher, closing at one-month highs. The Nifty staying above the 18,000 mark, led higher by IT stocks. Mid-caps did outperform the blue chips. The index ending over 0.5% higher. Banks underperformed. The Nifty Bank Index closed the day's session 0.25% lower. Some respite coming in for the Adani Group. 6 of the 10 stocks ending in the green. However, the group stocks have seen the market capitalization fall by 3,000 crore rupees today. The total fall in market cap since the Hindenburg report was made public now stands at 10.5 lakh crore rupees. In Adani-related developments, global index provider MSCI has deferred its decision to reduce the weightage of Adani Total and Adani Transmission to its next review in May. MSCI cited its price limit mechanism as one of the reasons for the decision. S&P Global Ratings has placed its ESG evaluation of Adani Transmission under review. The ratings firm in a statement said, and I quote, "We will closely monitor developments, including any investigations by the Indian regulators and any additional disclosures by the Adani Group," end of quote. In other news, Adani Power's initial pact to acquire the thermal power assets of DB Power has expired. This means a 7,000 crore rupee deal has fallen through. And in a notice to the exchanges, Adani Enterprises has dismissed reports that suggested that the group had hired Grant Thornton for an independent audit of some of its businesses. Adani Enterprises called the reports, and I quote, "a market rumor," and hence said it would be inappropriate to comment on the same. Let's delve deeper into the MSCI decision. Vivek is here to explain the rationale behind MSCI deferring the decision to reduce the weightage on 2 Adani Group companies. Vivek.
Well, that's right. So in a surprise announcement today morning, the MSCI has actually intimated that the proposed changes that they had in terms of the weightage reduction in stocks that were part of the MSCI standard indices is now deferred to the May review. Now, talking specifically in terms of 2 stocks, Adani Total Gas and Adani Transmission, where analysts were estimating outflows of close to $125 to $165 million. The MSCI has cited potential replicability issues due to the impact from price limit mechanisms. What it basically means is that since these stocks have continuously been hitting lower circuits, the funds, the passive funds that track the MSCI index changes would be unable to make the changes on the back of the circuit limit filters that have been put in place. So on the back of that, they've gone ahead and deferred this particular change to the May review. Now, talking about Adani Enterprises, the change and the weight reduction will happen as per, what MSCI had earlier intimated. However, what MSCI has done is that this particular, from today onwards, the Adani Group stocks, remember, all of the Adani Group stocks, barring Adani Wilmar and NDTV, are part of the MSCI index. So, they will have a special treatment and they will continue to remain part of certain indices, barring the MSCI standard index that has the maximum tracking in terms of passive fund flow. So, on the back of that, the volatility continues, but some good news coming in terms of the stocks not being removed from this particular immediate index rejig.
Vivek, many thanks for explaining the rationale there. Now, the union government has filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court in the Adani Hindenburg matter. The affidavit is only for the eyes of the judges and has been submitted in a sealed cover. The court has asked the government to strengthen investor protection after the fall in the Adani Group stocks. Ashmit joins us now with more. Ashmit, another sealed cover being submitted to the Supreme Court. What can we expect next?
Well, it was just last week that the Apex Court took up 2 PILs which raised the question of the Adani Hindenburg issue. And at the time, the Apex Court had expressed concern about lakhs of crores of investor wealth that had been wiped out, and subsequently had gone on to suggest an expert committee that will, 1, examine, and 2, suggest ways and means of strengthening the investor protection framework we have in the country. Now, SEBI replied to that. It was a public affidavit shared with all the parties where SEBI said that, yes, we're seized of the matter, we're looking into it. However, when the government was asked to reply, the government has filed its response in a sealed envelope. That's important here, especially because given the nature of the sealed envelope, only the top officers at the Finance Ministry, the Solicitor General himself, and now the judges alone will be privy to the contents of that one sealed envelope. Now, previously, in just the last hearing, the Solicitor General had expressed concerns that while the government is open to the idea of the expert committee, we should not be sending out signals that will spook global markets or global investors. So one imagines as a part of the sealed envelope, the government government is likely to, number one, accept the suggestion for an expert panel, but with riders. The rider is likely to be a very limited scope. The scope of this, the remit of this expert committee is likely to be limited by the government. And further, the government is likely to suggest names of experts that can be considered to be a part of this expert committee. Now, keep in mind, the Apex Court will be taking up this case for further hearing tomorrow, and that's when some of the answers will begin to come on, one, the government's position, two, of course, a fresh petition having been filed that seeks a probe not just into Adani, but also into LIC as well as the SBI. And these are questions that await answers tomorrow. Hopefully, the Apex Court, the CGI-led bench, will be taking up the matter, and that's when we'll begin to get more clarity.
Ashmit, many thanks. We will have to see what transpires in the Supreme Court. Now, in what comes as relief to oil companies, the government has reduced the windfall tax on crude petroleum from 5,000 rupees a tonne to 4,300 rupees a tonne. The tax on air turbine fuel, or ATF, has been slashed by more than half, from 6 rupees a litre to 1.5 rupees a litre. Aviation stocks rallied after the announcement was made. Similarly, the tax on diesel also cut by more than half, from 7.5 rupees per litre to 2.5 rupees per litre. Ray Dalio, the founder of the world's largest hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates, is bullish on India. Speaking at the World Government Summit in Dubai today, Dalio said India will have the highest growth rate in the world. He expects to see a big transformation.
India will have probably the greatest growth rate, the fastest growth rate economically, have the greatest transformation of any country. So here we are in the UAE, and you think about what's going on here and in Saudi and so on, or you go to Singapore and you look at what's happening in the ASEAN countries, Indonesia, Vietnam, and so on, and you look at India. It's an advantage through all history and world wars. India will do great, I think, and then the question is, what does that mean for the rest of us?
Well, from one veteran investor to a veteran investor, the Vice Chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, Charlie Munger, bullish on China despite tensions over Taiwan. He believes Chinese stocks are at a cheaper valuation today, and the extra risk, I'm quoting him, could provide extra value.
I don't think Taiwan looks like such a cakewalk anymore. I think it's off the table in China for a long, long time. And I think that helps the prospects of investors who invest in China. And the other thing that helps in terms of the China prospects are that you can buy better, stronger companies at a cheaper valuation in China than you can in the United States. So you're getting the extra risk can be worth running given the extra value you get.
Well, that's Charlie Munger. In the aviation space, shares of InterGlobe Aviation down in trade today following a bulk trade which involved 1.7 crore shares. That sums up about 4.4% stake. Now, reports suggest that Shobha Gangwal, the wife of Indigo co-promoter Rakesh Gangwal, is likely to have sold a part of her stake in the airline. Shobha Gangwal held 13.24% stake. Rakesh Gangwal held over 7% stake in InterGlobe as of December 2022. If the stake sale is on Shobha Gangwal's part, then her stake in the airline will fall to 2.64%. Remember, Rakesh Gangwal has made a public disclosure saying that he intends to bring his stake and his family's stake down in InterGlobe Aviation. New information about Air India's large aircraft order. The Chief Commercial and Transformation Officer, Nipun Agarwal, has revealed that the airline has actually ordered 840 aircraft, of which 470 are part of the firm order, and 370 planes can be procured on an optional basis. This essentially means that the airline has the right to purchase an additional 370 aircraft from Boeing and Airbus over the next decade. FMCG giant Nestlé has reported a steady Q4, beating estimates on EBITDA and margin. Net profit and revenue numbers a marginal miss, but much higher than the same quarter last year. The management says growth is the highest for the company in a decade, backed by sustained volume and strong value growth. Onto a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. The chairperson of LIC, M.R. Kumar, is likely to get a 6-month extension. His tenure is set to end in March. Yash is here with more details. Yash, so an extension likely?
Well, definitely a crucial development as far as LIC is concerned. What we've been given to understand from our sources is that the current chairman, the incumbent chairman at LIC, Mr. M.R. Kumar, is expected to get an extension from the government as far as the position of chairman is concerned. This extension, as per our sources, which could be considered by the government, could be for a period of 6 months. Remember, LIC chairman, the incumbent chairman, M.R. Kumar's term ends in March this year, to be precise on March 13th. The government is yet to start the process when it comes to appointment of the next chairman at LIC, and this extension to M.R. Kumar could give government that time which it would require to make this appointment of the next chairman at Life Insurance Corporation of India. For M.R. Kumar, this will be the third extension for him at LIC at the position of chairman. The first one, of course, was from July 21st to March 22nd. Second one from April 22nd to March 2023. We interviewed M.R. Kumar just last week after the company's Q3 results, and this is what he had to say about the appointment of the next chairperson at Life Insurance Corporation of India. Do you think it makes more sense to have more continuity at the leadership position, maybe in your role, or someone from LIC actually taking over this role who's seen the company? Or there were also reports that the government is looking for a private sector individual to head the organization, someone who would be an outsider. Does that make more sense?
I don't know. I wouldn't like to comment on this because this is something that government has to decide.
If you are asked if you're consultant...
As of now, this has not happened. It has always been an insider who has been holding the helm of the affairs. Correct. I don't see any reason for that to change. But if there are any reasons for that to change, it is left to the government to do that.
Well, that is likely. We are still awaiting official confirmation. In other news, Vodafone Idea continues to lose subscribers for the 21st month in a row. The telecom company lost nearly 25 lakh subscribers in December of 2022. Meanwhile, Jio added over 17 lakh new subscribers. Bharti Airtel gained more than 15.2 lakh subscribers. Vodafone Idea has lost subscribers every month since April of 2021. Since then, it's lost 4.2 crore subscribers in total. In fact, in 2022 alone, Vodafone Idea has lost more than 2.4 crore subscribers. Telecom regulator TRAI has issued new guidelines to telecom operators in a bid to crack down on pesky promotional messages. TRAI wants to stop the misuse of headers and message templates. The regulator has directed all service providers to re-verify registered headers and message templates. Telecom operators have also been asked to block all unverified headers and message templates. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 the government will soon take legal and legislative action against online pharmacies. The move is aimed at cracking down on the alleged misuse of personal data and market monopolization. The drug regulator had earlier sent show-cause notices to 20 e-pharmacies. Meanwhile, separately, sources have also told CNBC-TV18 that the government will begin probing startups that are not registered under the DPIIT. Timsy joins us now with the details of these developments. Timsy, on both those stories, what are your sources telling you?
Well, sources at Health Ministry have told CNBC-TV18 that the government will soon take legal and legislative action against e-pharmacies to crack down on alleged misuse. The move comes on the back of the fact that show-cause notices were sent by DGCI, that is the Drug Controller General of India, on 8th of February to 20 e-pharmacies, including NetMeds, Tata 1mg, Amazon, Flipkart, Apollo, etc., especially noting the fact that these online platforms are selling drugs without proper prescription. Apart from that, in a separate development, sources say that the Income Tax Department and DPIIT in a joint operation are soon going to begin scrutiny of unregistered startups. Government suspects tax evasion, manipulation of valuation by startups by not registering with DPIIT. Sources say that the government wants to know that what is the reason behind startups skipping the registration process. Remember, Budget 2023 brought in a parity for foreign investors and resident investors to be taxed at the same level when it comes to the investment in unregistered startups. And remember, angel tax is what we are talking about. It is applied if the share price that is allotted to investors is at a premium to the fair market value of the share. So that's the exact point that the government wants a clarity on, a scrutiny on, and angel tax to be levied. Back to you.
Timsy, many thanks for joining us. India's competition watchdog, the CCI, has cleared Dalmia Bharat's acquisition of certain assets of Jaiprakash Associates. Dalmia Cement will buy JP Associates' clinker, cement and power plants for an enterprise value of over 5,600 crores. The assets are present in MP, UP and Chhattisgarh. This includes a cement plant with a capacity of 9.4 million tons. HDFC has concluded its biggest ever rupee bond issue ahead of its merger with its banking unit. HDFC's issue was oversubscribed. The mortgage lender raised 25,000 crore rupees, selling 10-year non-convertible debentures at a coupon of 7.9% per annum. The PM Gati Shakti Mission, a national plan for multimodal connectivity, has received feedback from railways, coal and power ministries, among others. We learned from sources the railway ministry has identified 55 towns that can be connected under the plan. A comprehensive port connectivity roadmap is also being implemented in coordination with various ministries. In a major setback for old power plants, Coal India has limited its supply beyond annual contracted quantity. According to government sources, private power companies with supply agreements signed prior to 2009 will get coal not beyond annual contracted quantity. Coal supply above ACQ would be possible only if conditions laid down by Coal India are fulfilled. A dipstick survey by the Advertising Standards Council of India has found that 79% of Indians above the age of 18 trust social media influencers and are likely to buy products that they endorse. This survey was conducted among 820 respondents. However, the survey also found that complaints over misleading ads are piling up.
This is an audience which is becoming savvier about how things and business and content is produced online. It understands that content has a particular agenda. Transparency amongst influencers actually builds trust, and lack of transparency depletes it. So I think this is really a win-win situation for brands, influencers, and audiences, that when there is transparency and authenticity, that everyone finds some value in that content and work.
Well, social media influencers. Time for a short break. Up next, brisk polling in all 60 assembly seats in Tripura. The state is seeing a triangular contest between the ruling BJP alliance, the Left Congress alliance, and the newcomer Tipra Mota Party led by Pradyut Dev Burman. That and more when we return. In national news, Tripura voted in the assembly elections today. The state has seen a voter turnout of more than 81% as of 4 p.m. The Legislative Assembly polls have 60 seats in fray, with results slated for the 2nd of March. The state is witnessing a battle between the BJP alliance, the Left Congress alliance, and the new entrant, the Tipra Mota Party led by Pradyut Dev Burman, the head of Tripura's royal family. Over 28 lakh voters will decide the fate of over 250 candidates in the state. The Bharatiya Janata Party, which is looking to retain its seats in Tripura, is fighting the election battle in 55 seats. The CPIM has fielded candidates in 47 seats, and Congress has fielded candidates in 13. For the third consecutive day, the Income Tax Department continued its probe at BBC's Mumbai and Delhi offices over alleged transfer pricing violations. Opposition parties accusing the government of using the IT department to carry out their political vendetta. The Editors Guild and Press Council of India have also condemned the move. It comes after a BBC documentary on Prime Minister Modi was banned by the government. BBC said it is cooperating with officials. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar has called for a bold counter to what he calls doctored narratives. Without directly referring to the BBC controversy, Dhankar said, and I quote again, "Doctored narratives cannot be allowed to run down the India story."
India is on the rise. Sinister designs are there to set afloat a narrative by free fall of information. We have to be alert. This is another way of invasion. We have to boldly neutralize it. We have to stir in us a spirit of nationalism. We cannot allow free fall of doctored narratives to run down our growth story.
Musk. And before we wrap, as part of our Future Female Forward series, we spoke with Ranveer Albadia, popularly known as Beer Biceps, about content creation and the role of gender sensitization. Ranveer believes the pie for females in content creation is bigger, but admits the participation of males is higher compared to females.
Honestly, on an average, the girls earn more money in like our industry.
Oh, really?
But there's an excess of male content creators. The reason for that is that the brands that engage in influencer marketing are usually in the beauty and fashion space.
Right.
So if you're a female content creator, I feel there's much more money to be made, but we don't see too many for some reason. Again, it's down to Probably, again, we're not girls, so we don't, no uterus, no opinion. But I feel my soft opinion here is that lots of Indian girls are kind of just told not to go about their social media presence as much as the boys are.
Oh, really?
Which is probably why I feel in India you see more boys as content creators, but the pie is much bigger for the girls.
Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned. The news continues on CNBC TV 18.